In 2003, we learned of the momentous discovery of Homo floresiensis on an island in the eastern Indonesian archipelago. These hobbits, standing at only 3.5 feet tall, challenged our understanding of human evolution and opened up new possibilities about the diversity of ancient human species. In 2012, another fantastic discovery off the coast of Southeast Asia was announced: Homo luzonensis, found in the Philippines. This newly identified human species further demonstrated the remarkable variety of early human populations in the region. Sulawesi. In 2016, scientists announced the discovery of stone tools dated to over 200,000 years ago on the volcanic island of Sulawesi, also in the Indonesian island chain. Paper. Our findings suggest that Sulawesi, like Flores, was host to a long-established population of archaic hominins, the ancestral origins and taxonomic status of which remains elusive. abc.net.au. The discovery published today in Nature overturns the view that humans first entered the island between 50,000 and 60,000 years ago as Homo sapiens dispersed out of Africa on the way to Australia. CBC. Ancient tools show mysterious human species on Indonesian island, 2016. Scientists have announced the discovery of stone tools at least 118,000 years old at a site called Talepu on the island of Sulawesi. Continuing, Dr. Gerrit van den Berg from the University of Wollongong said it was likely this earlier inhabitant was related to the dwarf-sized hobbit Homo floresiensis. Continuing, quote, "We now have direct evidence that when modern humans arrived on Sulawesi between 60,000 and 50,000 years ago, they were aided by watercraft. Their tools, meticulously crafted from stone, hinted at the advanced capabilities of ancient humans, though who made them remains a mystery. The implications on Sulawesi and other Indonesian islands of an earlier presence are profound, as they hint at complex migration patterns and survival strategies in ancient humans. Mata Menge. In early 2024, a group of scientists led by the eccentric Japanese archaeologist Yosuke Keifu announced the discovery of two molars and a partial jawbone of an archaic hominin on the island of Flores. The discovery was made 100 kilometers from Liangbua Cave, where Homo floresiensis was first discovered. The astonishing find pushed the boundaries of our knowledge about early human species in the region. The Mata Menge site is particularly fascinating because it suggests that Homo floresiensis, or their ancestors, were already present in the region long before previously thought. The researchers theorize that these Mata Menge specimens, dated to around 700,000 years ago, are from an ancestor of Homo floresiensis. This discovery sheds light on their evolutionary lineage, but it also raises intriguing questions about their migration and adaptation. Island hopping by raft, canoe, or vegetation islands. Cambridge Dictionary. Watercraft definition: any vehicle or transport device that can move on, through, or under water. It is quite possible that these early hominids may have arrived to Flores and Sulawesi on floating islands of vegetation, similar to how monkey species made it to the New World around 30 million years ago. Professors Vandenberg and Flores expert anthropologist Debbie Argue have floated the possibility that hominids from the Middle to Late Pleistocene could have had sufficient knowledge to build crude canoes. But others, such as Riley Black of the Smithsonian Institute, counter no, these primates were not lashing together rafts and intentionally setting sail for uncharted territories. Riley, Smithsonian, quote, the process was entirely accidental, end quote. She goes on to endorse the idea of quote unquote island hopping from debris and vegetation. Professor Vandenberg acknowledges this possibility. Continuing from the CBC, the species that made the tools may have reached Sulawesi by drifting over the ocean on tsunami debris, he said. Denisovans, diminutive Homo erectus, or the hobbits. Continue from the CBC, quote, the newly arrived species must have encountered an archaic group of humans that was already present on the island of Sulawesi long before, end quote, said archaeologist Gerrit van den Berg of University of Wollongong in Australia. Ars Technica 2016. It might even have been Denisovans, who lived in Southeast Asia over 200,000 years ago and whose genetic traces can still be found in the DNA of modern people in the region. How far did these archaic humans travel? All the way to the Pacific Islands? With each of these new discoveries, we realize how little we know about the various diminutive hominid species in Melanesia and the South Pacific. CBC, Professor Gerrit van den Berg, quote, major islands such as Flores, Sulawesi, Luzon, and perhaps others as well could have served as natural experiments in human evolution and could throw new light on human evolution in general, end quote. Did these species make it much further than is currently known? While there are no confirmed reports of Homo floresiensis, Denisovans, or Homo erectus in Polynesia, the presence of Denisovan DNA in modern Melanesians suggests ancient interbreeding. The archaic admixture is also present to varying degrees in populations across the Pacific, including Tahitians and Fiji Island natives. Note, there appears to be an ongoing, even somewhat nasty battle between scientists over the amount of Denisovan DNA admixture in modern Polynesians. One side says 1.1%, the other side is firm on 3 to 6%. Did the Denisovans, hobbits, or Homo luzonensis make it as far east as Rapa Nui? A 2022 study found evidence of Denisovan DNA in isolated Brazilian and Colombian tribes. Hawaii Ancient Legends. Throughout the South Pacific Islands, including Fiji and Tahiti, there exist legends passed down from ancient ancestors of little people roaming the isolated regions. While concrete evidence is scarce, there is some indication in Hawaii that an ancient population of diminutive stature hominids may have once existed. Shaka Guide. According to Hawaiian legends, the Menehune were a race of small people that stood only about 3 feet tall. They were mysterious and lived deep in the forest. Kawola News 2022. The Menehune are a true race of people. During a census in 1820, 65 Menehune identified themselves as living in Wainea, Kauai. According to anthropologist Catherine Luamala, the Menehune had already arrived in Hawaii long before those ancestors who came from Tahiti. They were stout, darker skinned, and skilled in construction. University of Hawaii. The first population census was undertaken in Wainea Valley, Kauai, near the beginning of the 19th century. A careful census of the valley counted more than 2,000 people, 65 of whom were described as Menehune. Note aside, a similar official census conducted in the 1880s on the island of Flores in Indonesia counted 62 quote-unquote monkey-face dwarf people. One of the 62 individuals on Flores who was mentioned in government records as a quote-unquote monkey-faced dwarf was a popular religious leader on the southern part of the island. Expansion from the Philippines across Polynesia. Anthropologists are in disagreement with the origins of the Lapita culture, but some in the field believe that it originated from northern Luzon in the Philippines. Thought.com 2019. The Lapita culture is associated with the people who settled east of remote Oceania between 3,400 and 2,900 years ago. Continuing, Lapita culture extends to Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, eastward to Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa. It includes distinctive pottery and tattooing. Intriguingly, this overlaps with the region where Homo luzonensis was discovered. Of note, the Ayta Magbukon, an isolated tribe in Luzon, have up to 7.8% recorded Denisovan DNA admixture, the highest level of Denisovan DNA found in any population worldwide. Austronesian expansion. Thought.com 2019. A study led by Max Planck researcher Cosimo Post looked at the DNA of 19 ancient individuals across Tonga, French Polynesia, the Solomon Islands, and 27 inhabitants of Vanuatu. Their results indicate that the earliest Austronesian expansion began 5,500 years ago, ultimately carrying people as far eastward as Rapa Nui. Key finding: Papuan-related genetic ancestry is found across present-day Pacific populations. Papuans, Denisovan DNA, or another unknown species. Anthropologists are still unsure what to make of the Papuans. Australia, ABC.net 2016. People from Papua New Guinea and Northeast Australia carry small amounts of DNA of an unidentified extinct human species, a new research analysis says. Continuing, the analysis suggests the DNA is unlikely to come from Neanderthals or Denisovans, but from a third extinct hominid, previously unknown to archaeologists. Smithsonian 2021. Up to 5% of Papuans' DNA comes from Denisovans per the new paper published this month in the journal PLOS Genetics. As noted previously on this channel, Professor Cox suggests Denisovans have up to 4 subspecies. One, D03, might not be Denisovans, but a distinct, unidentified ancient hominid species. The last remnants of archaic hominins in Polynesia. LiveScience.com, facts about the Hobbit 2024. Homo floresiensis, dubbed the Hobbit, was an ancient hominid that lived until at least 17,000 years ago. Chris Stringer has stated in lectures that Homo erectus could have survived till much later than previously believed in Melanesia, possibly as late as 20,000 years ago. BBC 2019. In the 1990s, one team led by Professor Russell Ciachone of the University of Iowa came up with unexpectedly young ages of between 53,000 and 23,000 years ago. Continuing, this raised the distinct possibility that modern humans overlapped with Homo erectus on the Indonesian island. Could the fabled little people of Hawaiian and South Pacific Islander legends be remnants of an archaic hominid species from Melanesia? Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, Homo luzonensis, a diminutive subspecies of Homo erectus, or an as of yet unidentified archaic hominid species. Some personal qualifications. I traveled to the Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, and Hawaii in the Navy 1981 through 85 on board the USS Kitty Hawk CV-63, and I am shellback certified. A couple of books referenced in the video, highly recommended reading. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.